Lauren Windsor of Undercurrent has been traveling around the country throughout this election cycle, getting Republicans to say what they really think when they don't think they're being taped. In her most recent videos, she's talking to Blake Masters and Paul Gosar under the guise of being a person who is apparently shooting migrants trying to cross the border, engaging their responses. Let's see how Blake Masters did.
So my family's ranch, we have illegals coming over, and we've shot at people that are illegals coming over, and now it's like, all right, did we hit anyone? Are we shooting to kill? We have our state's right to form a militia and stuff that's in the Constitution, but it's like, it gives us a lot of anxiety and everything.
It's so hard to live on the border.
Yeah.
Okay, so bearing in mind that responding to someone talking about potentially having randomly murdered migrants by saying, yeah, it is so hard to live on the border is not a great response. Brett, I am curious what you think about this tactic. It is possible that Blake Masters would just feel really uncomfortable talking to someone who is talking about killing migrants. That said, he's running for office and people want to know what he actually thinks about these sorts of things. So what did you make of that interaction?
You say don't shoot them is what you do. That's what you say. But we live in a post-Trump society that is post a John McCain society. There was one famous moment during a town hall on CNN, I think it was, where a woman said something horrible, and John McCain said, actually, no, that is false. He might, for a moment, have seemed like a decent, humane individual. He said, no, ma'am, he's not a Muslim. He weirdly said that he implied that Muslims are bad people, but he was like, he's a good man, he's a family man, and we disagree on issues. And that used to imply civility. And that was one of the redeeming factors of high-level politicians, when redeeming factors in a high-level politician were hard to come by. But since everything about any politician has been deemed evil and insider and swampy by the right, and any whiff of humanity has been considered weakness, Blake Masters is doing what a post-Trump politician does. And I would say that that kind of those trappings of a politician are way worse and way more evil, because he is saying, listen, I know that I have confirmation that what I'm saying is radicalizing people into just taking taking random shots at people who are just seeking a better life. And Blake Masters, rather than call that out for the obvious stupidity and evil that it is like, man, it must be tough.
It must be tough. You have to occasionally reload. Maybe the cops are asking questions about you randomly murdering people. That is tough. Yeah, that's definitely true. His goal in that interaction is to not lose a voter, a murderous, psychopathic voter, but a voter, I guess. By the way, I think Dragon Penny said that sounded like Walter Masterson. It is actually. He was working with her. He was working with her on this project. Obviously, he didn't really do this. It's just a story to gauge the reaction. Look, I try to be needlessly the devil's advocate. If I were talking to someone who's talking about randomly murdering people, I would be uncomfortable and worried that they might randomly murder me too. But we also know what he really thinks about migrants. So it is not difficult to imagine that this was actually representative. It does not particularly bother him, the idea that someone would randomly try to murder people walking near their territory. In any event, Blake Masters was not the only person that Lauren Windsor talked to. Here is her speaking with Paul Gosar.
Border right now. My family's ranch is down in Yuma, and we have illegals on our land a lot. So we've shot at them, and our Second Amendment rights to stand our ground. I'm worried that the Democrats are gonna send me to jail. If I hit one of them, right?
They have more rights than we do.
Yeah, it's like I can't shoot at them when as they cross the border and stuff. I think I might have hit someone. And I was distressed about it for a week. Yeah, and so I just thank you for everything you're doing.
You're so
off there and everything, and for election integrity.
Stay in prayer, because this country needs it. But there's a bunch of people that are ready to go into action.
Yeah.
So that is where there's no question about that interaction. He likes that the guy is shooting at people. He wants to say a prayer for that guy, not for the migrants who were theoretically killed. He says that the migrants being shot at have more rights than the murderers. I don't know in modern America whether they do. I would think that they should though, since they're the victims of a homicidal crime. And at the end, it might have even been the worst part of that, Brett. He says there's a lot of people ready to go into action. Someone has just said, I murder migrants for sport. And he says there's a lot of people ready to go into action. So what other interpretation is there of that than we might need to start killing people? We need people like you who are willing to murder for politics.
In these last two videos by Undercurrent, thanks to Lauren Windsor and Walter Masterson.
And yes, they both did a great job.
We see the two kinds of Republican seeking power. We see the Blake Masters, who are just posers who are gonna say and do whatever they want. They know they're being wrong, they know they're being stupid, and they know they're kowtowing to people who really are hateful, and in this case, what he understands to be homicidal, right? Then we have someone who is thoroughly bonkers, like Paul Gosar. Paul Gosar, don't take my word for it, take the word of his entire family, who has said, our brother has lost it. This is a bonkers person who believes he is the true faith militant that believes everything he says. They are both dangerous, and losing this country to fascist dictatorship relies on both those types. And they are chasing out the folks who have the decency to say, this is wrong, dude. This is just utterly wrong and evil, and you shouldn't behave that way. And there is no leadership among the posers, and there is no right mind among the right that's lost its mind.
Yeah, I don't know what's gonna come of this investigation. I feel like that should be an issue for Paul Gosar, that he's clearly calling for organized political violence. We'll see. Anyway, great work by Lauren Windsor, great work by Walter Masterson. Everyone definitely follow the Undercurrent. She's been putting out little undercover investigations like this, like literally for years, but throughout this election cycle, and really shedding light on what these people believe.
Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.